Hey everyone, my name is Adonai McLaren. Today I want to talk about this multi-site enterprise network here. So if we zoom in, we can take a look at all of our VLANs. We have VLAN 10 for engineering and devices, VLAN 20 for marketing, VLAN 30 for sales, VLAN 40 for admin, VLAN 50 for finance, and VLAN 60 for guest. If we take a look over here at the data center branch, we also have VLAN 70 for the web servers and VLAN 80 for the OA server. For our inter-VLAN routing across the network, we're using SVIs on the Enterprise HQ site for this multi-layer switch and this multi-layer switch. And then on the data center site, we're also using SVIs on this multi-layer switch. On these multi-layer switches in the Enterprise HQ site, we're also using hot standby routing protocols, so we have redundancy in case one of them goes down or we lose a link to one of them from these access layer switches. For these two branches up here, we're using router on a stick on this router, router 3, and on router 4. We're also using OSPF for internal routing on the Enterprise HQ and in the Enterprise Branch 1 and Enterprise Branch 2. For the data center, we're using static routing for R2. So for our site-to-site routing between autonomous systems, we're using BGP and redistributing routes from our edge routers. So from R1, we're redistributing our OSPF, same for R3 and R4, but for R2, because we only have static routes, we're redistributing our static routes to the rest of the BGP neighbors. So basically the way that you would set up BGP on one of these routers, we go to our run config here. Just like you would when you're setting up OSPF, you would run router BGP, and then instead of the process ID, you would put the autonomous system that router belongs to. So this one belongs to autonomous system 65001. So from there, once you're in that configuration mode, you put in neighbor, and then you put in the IP address of the neighbor router. So for this router, router 1, the neighbor is router 5. And then you put in the remote autonomous system that router is a part of. So for router 5, that's autonomous system 65,000. From there, you would advertise any connected routes that you would want to advertise to your other BGP neighbors. Then you also redistribute your internal routes that you want BGP neighbors to be able to access. So for us, we want all of our BGP neighbors, R3, R4, and R2, as well as R5, to be able to reach these local routes inside of Enterprise HQ. So we're advertising all of our OSPF routes that we set up here. So we're advertising network 10.0.0.0, 255, 255, 255, 252. And then we're also advertising these other networks down here and our default route. The next thing that you want to do when you're configuring BGP, you want to redistribute your internal routes. So for this router, it would be OSPF. So that's basically just going to advertise our internal routes to any of our BGP neighbors. So R3, R4, R5, and R2. That basically just makes it so that any of those routers know where the next hop is to any of these networks in here. Since we're advertising these point-to-point connections, we're also advertising how to get to each of these subnets for these VLANs. So if we need traffic to return to those destinations, you would definitely need to redistribute your OSPF routes, or else the traffic would just time out because they don't know where to forward it. The next thing I want to talk about is our port address translation configuration that we've set up on router 5. So if we look here, we've set our IPNet outside. So this is our outside interface facing the internet. And then we also have our inside interfaces going to all of our branches, the enterprise branch, branch 2, enterprise HQ, and the data center. And then we've also set up our access list. So we're just permitting all of the end user VLANs in each branch. And then after that, here we have our actual configuration, IPNet inside source list, port address translation. So that's our access list that we have to permit each of these IP ranges. And then this is our interface that we're setting as our outside interface. And then we have overload to indicate that this is port address translation. The last thing I want to do is talk about our firewall configurations here. So if we go to firewall 1 and pull up the running config, we can see that our G1/1 interface is named as the outside interface because it's facing our edge router here for the data center site. And then we're also going to take a look at G1/2. Here we've named it the inside interface because it's facing our inside network, where our DNS server, web server, and OA server networks are. It's very important that you label these interfaces as outside or inside because otherwise they won't come up. The next thing that you want to do is you want to set your static routes. So here we have a static route to our default route. So that's going to be facing our edge router here. Next thing that you want to do is the next thing that you want to do is create your static routes facing your inside network. So we have static routes to the network for the DNS server, our web server, and our OA server over here. The next thing you want to do is configure your access control list rules. So here's the name of our access list. It's DC in. It's an extended access list. We're permitting this IP range from the enterprise HQ site. Any end user device here in any VLAN can send traffic to this network. So we're permitting 172.16.0.0. We also did that for these other two subnet ranges. We also did that for these other two network ranges in branch 1 and branch 2. If you'd like to read through the rest of the rules, you can. The last thing that you want to do is apply your access control list to an interface. So we're doing access group DC in, that's the name of the access control list. Then we want it to be filtering incoming traffic. Then we put in the interface, it's the outside interface. So that basically just represents the G1/1 interface here. And then after that, you should be good. That's all I have to talk about for this network. Thank you for watching.